For those of you that don't know Dave Bordwine, he is a contractor. He's been in the construction industry, but he has a very unique skill set. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about his skill set, and we're going to talk about tiny homes because they've been on the horizon now for quite a long time. And for me, as a realtor, we're talking about alternative housing. Some of it's ADU laws and some of it's just flat out. How do we get people into homes and how do they find affordable places to live? So good morning, Dave. Thank you so much. I
Morning,
appreciate
Steph.
you being here. Yes, this is going to be an
Yeah, great to
exciting
be here with
interview.
you. Great to be here. So yeah, this is exciting. So looking forward to starting this series of information sharing. So
Yeah, and that's what it's going to be truly. As I explained, we'll do what we can to get a good interview today, but we'll also encapsulate different smaller areas. So it'll be good. It'll be helpful for people that are really thinking, what do I do? So, before you start, Dave, just to mention, some people might be thinking, well, tiny homes, I've seen them on TV or whatever else, but really, I'd like to get people thinking about what do I do when I have maybe I have space on my property and I've got adult children and they don't really have the ability to afford a place to live. Would this be something for them? Would it be something for parents? I have older parents that we maybe need to sell their house. Maybe I live in a property and I need to downsize, or I really don't want to be living somewhere different, but I could put something like a manufactured home or tiny home in my backyard and rent out the big house. So there's many options and we'll explore those later. But Dave, tell us a little bit about you being in this space. How'd you get here?
how did I get here? It's a long story. So way back in the early 90s, I got into construction. We were doing remodels. We were doing all kinds of trades. We were doing room additions primarily. So not building houses, but just getting into all the trades, like I said, doing room additions primarily. So I got to see like every trade there is, all the way from the underground to the concrete, to the walls, to the framing, roof, everything. So it was kind of an exciting time back then. It was a good time for me in the early 90s. I went back into the plumbing trades and we did some major underground work for some big companies around town, around Fresno, around the valley. And then we just, steamrolled our business into one of the major players for the underground service
Awesome.
air industry. So my father-in-law, which owns Central Piers Incorporated here in Fresno, manufacturer of the mobile home piers since 1973, asked me to come and run his business. And I said, okay, that's fine. I'll do that and see, see how long I can do that for. And I did that for about 5 years and I just got really bored. And I said, you know what, I need to get back into contracting. So I said, hey, how about if we go ahead and, be a contractor for the mobile home industry? And that's how I got into this industry, ironically.
Okay.
So I have a lot of experience with the foundation systems, right? I worked a lot on the foundation systems that Central Piers produced. So I was able to get in with the engineers and the manufacturing of the systems and really get like into the nitty gritty of the testing of the systems, the engineering, the submitting to the state for approvals and all that stuff. So that's kind of where my history comes from in the manufactured home industry. And I did that for several years. And then I opened up another construction firm called Northgate Construction in 2010. And I serviced the mobile home industry, manufactured home industry with installations of new homes, older homes, repairs, remodels, everything you could do. We used to do we still do everything with Northgate Construction when it involves a manufactured home, a mobile home, a modular home. So a lot of that experience, of course, is just parlayed right into the tiny home industry. So with the construction, the underground, which is all the plumbing and stuff that I've done, and then the manufacturing home experience and foundations and all that. I got a call one day from a company that wanted me to install a tiny home in Fresno. And I'm like, okay, shouldn't be a problem, right? That's easy. That's basically a small single wide manufacturing.
Right. Much smaller.
Found out it wasn't all that easy because a manufactured home is either a factory built home, a modular, or a HUD unit, housing urban development, which is certain building codes that most of the municipalities accept because it's well known, it's been established throughout the
Long time.
70s, 80s, 90s.
Yeah.
So it's like when you're doing a mobile home, or manufacturing home, it's like, okay, you pull the permits, no problem, do the permits for the infrastructure, which is the underground, the plumbing, electrical, sewer, gas, which is something I didn't have any problems doing. I did that for years. So, but what I ran across was these tiny homes, the builders are building to a park model RV standard, which is the ANSI 119.5 building standard. So that was a challenge with the building departments. And they were saying, well, this is an RV. You can't install it as an ADU or second dwelling on a property. And I was like, okay, let me look into this for a while. So a lot of research and a lot of digging up municipal codes, IRC codes, California building codes, and I came to the understanding that this could be a really big problem for the tiny home industry, for not only the property owners, the buyers, but the builders too. So, and we made a lot of headway in the last 2 years, and we can go
absolutely
into one story at a time. But so that's how I landed here, and I feel like I just need to help the industry. And that's what I'm doing. And I got a great team of engineers. I have a great network of folks that help me, like Dan Fitzpatrick, which is, he's the guy that's written most of these municipal codes for a lot of municipalities in California that are now accepting the park model RV ANSI unit, which is a great thing. And we're just
huge.
Yeah, we're making strides every day, every week, just moving forward to get this thing.
So let's talk about that for just a second, because Dan is actually from our area, still lives here. He was very instrumental in actually putting together the first true legislation, really, that actually permitted tiny homes. And where did he do that?
Right here in Fresno.
Here in Fresno. How long ago was that?
And he told me a couple of weeks ago, he said, I wrote that code 6 years ago. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I believe it. So City of Fresno was the first state in California to adopt the tiny home on wheels code to be installed as ADUs on private property.
Now, and they actually, I think, are in the whole nation, aren't they? Weren't we the first?
Yes, first in the nation, first city in the state, yes.
First city in the state. So you would think 6 years ago, everybody would be out and installing them, and that's what brings us here today. So what has happened just recently that's so monumental when you were talking about this particular passing of this permitting? How long has it taken us to get it done?
Yeah, so the first tiny home permit in the city of Fresno took 10 months to process and get it done. Okay, so there was a lot of Zoom meetings, emails, phone calls, back and forth with me and Northgate Construction. I have to give my daughter a lot of credit, Allie, for just being patient and working with the building department and the planning department. And there was a lot of misunderstanding about even the code that was written. There's a lot of misinterpretation, misunderstanding about what that code actually said. So we were able to finally, working with my engineer, working with Dan Fitzpatrick, and working with planning and building at the city of Fresno, finally process the permit. Okay.
Absolutely.
So we've done one in the city of Fresno. And we plan on having more meetings with the development department.
When did you actually get that done? That would be important to note.
The permit was completed in December.
But
Uh,
when did you get the structure actually in and functional?
oh, it's still going on. So
Okay,
we were delayed because of the recent rains, right? So
right.
we passed two inspections, rough inspections, and now
Awesome.
we're just waiting on the electrical. So we had to do a panel upgrade, which you know, any electrician will tell you nowadays, just finding a panel, the
Oh,
right
wow.
can take you 2 or 3 months to get it. So
Wow.
yeah, and then you deal with the, you know, the utility department, and we have a date of May 1st now for a shut off, so we can do that panel upgrade, get the electrical shut off, and then do the panel upgrade, turn the electricity back on, get the inspection on the electrical, and then we're all good to go. So then that project
Okay.
is done, and we're gonna have a big celebration, trust me.
Yay. Well, you're close. So is the unit actually in the backyard at this point in time?
Oh, yeah, the unit is there, set
Okay.
on, what we call a tie down system, engineered tie down system. Okay, it is, an underpinning system is what I like to call it, okay? It's not a foundation per se, but a lot of folks will call it a foundation. So yes, it's sitting not on the wheels. It's sitting on a pier and post tie down system or underpinning system. So
Okay.
we could have put it on a foundation system, but the property owner chose not to. Okay, so if we chose to put it on a foundation system, we absolutely could have recorded it with the county as real property and make
Okay.
this real estate rather than just chattels, right?
So here's something I want to bring up since you're talking about that, and I'll just interject here just a
Sure,
small note because most of my people are actually looking at bringing on ADUs, creating real property. And every time I talk with somebody that's looking for a way, really first, most importantly, is to bring on either renters or family members to a home. We have to keep in mind that there's different
right,
ways to do it. One is to have the actual unit that you can rent out or somebody could live in and have it permitted and all. And the other would be to actually get it to the point where you can record it as real property so that it increases the value of your property.
right,
So that will be a next step, right, with somebody, which would be so cool to do because tiny homes are different than manufactured homes in some different ways. And they're so adorable and they're fun. And people actually kind of lean towards thinking that that would be something that they want. But that question of is it real property or not is what you're talking about now. And so that'll be interesting to see when we can get that done, which is awesome, right?
right. So, yeah, I want to just kind of tie together the tiny home on wheels and the ADU. Okay, an ADU is an accessory dwelling unit. Okay, those are approved in every municipality statewide. Okay, and here's where the confusion comes in. Okay, a tiny home can be used as an ADU, but a tiny home is really it's a marketing term. Okay, so we really need to call these things what they are. So a tiny home can be a park model ANSI unit if the municipality accepts that type of unit as an ADU, accessory dwelling unit. Okay, so and then if you have a manufactured home, a HUD listed manufactured home, that opens up several more municipalities throughout the state that will accept what we call them HUD homes. It's just an easy acronym. They will accept a HUD home as an ADU. Okay, so our industry is full of acronyms. So HUD is housing and urban development, what we all know as a manufactured home
Yes.
or a mobile home. And an ADU is an accessory dwelling unit that is designed to house people or a family on site, which has cooking, like a kitchen, bathroom, bed.
Bathroom.
So all that, without going into too much detail on that, an ADU is approved statewide. Tiny homes are not. And
Right.
the difference is you can build an ADU on site like you would build a regular home, right? So, but what we're striving in the tiny home industry for is to get these tiny home on wheels approved as ADUs. We can move them in. People can start living in the tiny homes, right?
So let's
But
talk locally. Let's talk
yeah,
locally because there are some areas locally, and that's the big question I have because I ask them, first of all, where do they live? So you're the expert, and I know what questions I'm answering. So where locally can you potentially put a tiny home wheels and not put a tiny home on wheels?
okay, so locally, like our area right here, every municipality is different, okay? City of Fresno, yes. County of Fresno, yes, you can. Now you can put a park model ANSI unit in on a property as an ADU.
What
Okay,
about Clovis?
Clovis, no, not yet.
Yeah. And that's
Okay,
what I wanted to get to because it's a
yes,
no so far.
right. And then you have to look at, like I said, parcels. Your parcel or your address needs to be determined where it is. You may have Selma or Sanger or Fowler, right? But those are unincorporated areas of the county. So those are county properties. Okay, so the county has a few little different stipulations than the city will. Okay, but if you go into Clovis, that's a city. They have their own stipulations and they're saying no right now. No to park models, yes to ADUs, because that's
Yes, that's a
why
state law.
statewide. So, but no to tiny home on wheels. But they're on our radar to have meetings with them also and show them what other municipalities have accepted. And we're going to try to get them to say, okay, we understand. Yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to let those things go. But that takes a lot of effort and a lot of energy to get those type of things done.
It does. But what are we seeing? Can you talk about the trend within California? What we're seeing as far as the acceptance of manufactured tiny homes on wheels throughout the state?
Sure. So, and yeah, we see local municipalities accepting them, at a pretty good rate. There's 16 or 17 municipalities throughout the state now that are accepting park model RVs as ADUs. So San Jose is one,
San
Fresno,
Diego, isn't San Diego the
and
newest?
City of San Diego, yes.
Yes.
No, San Luis Obispo County. So yeah, there's several
Yeah.
that have accepted. Santa Cruz County, they really opened up their county to park model RVs. So yeah, and it's, the list is growing every day. So, and what happens is, we're looking for a snowball effect to where if this municipality next door to us is accepting it, then maybe we should look into that, right?
Right. And there is
So,
some pressure anyway, because the state of
yes,
California has become very, the best word I can think of is aggressive about wanting the cities and counties to actually open up and consider more alternative housing. So
right,
this is alternative housing, right?
yes.
And it does house people that are having a difficulty. Is there anything you want to share with us? Because I know you know the process. So take it away from here. If somebody was thinking of putting in a tiny home, what is the first thing they would do?
So the first thing you would do is hire a contractor Dave. And the reason I say that is because it's a gauntlet of research that I go through for the folks, right? And
But what is that? What is it you need to try to find out first? What are a couple
yeah,
of the most important things? Because they're really specific and they're difficult if you don't have the abilities with setbacks and all.
right. So I'll try to run through this really quick, but let's just say I wanted a tiny home in my backyard. You wanted one in your backyard. So, okay, first thing we're going to do is look at your address. We're going to look at the parcel information from the county. Okay. And we're going to say, okay, well, first of all, do you have the room for it? Right. If you got a pool and a cabana and you got, in your backyard, you just don't have the room, then it's probably not going to work. Right. So we look at that. Those are called setbacks. And then we look at the local municipality code and what they're saying, right? So like we talked about a minute ago, do they accept the park model ANSI unit, right? Or do they require a HUD? Okay, so all those are vetted out pretty quickly, pretty simply. But it can be challenging if you've never done it before. So, and then what we look at after that is your infrastructure. Okay, so this is statewide statutes is every ADU, although they're allowed, whether it's stick built or a tiny home on wheels, has to be connected to the primary residence utilities, which means water, sewer, gas, and electrical, right? Now you can choose a tiny home on wheels that doesn't have gas, but everything else is required. You gotta have water, you gotta have sewer drainage, and you gotta have electrical. Okay, so then we look at the site. Okay, so the site, will it accommodate, the utilities accommodate an ADU without breaking the bank for the property owner, right? So that's what we
Right.
look at. So there's some properties that, you know, you may have to run a sewer line or a water line or electrical line 250 feet, right? So that's what we look at for the folks and say, look, yeah. But what I try to do is say on the first step, right? If you ask me for your help, I'm gonna say yes or no. Okay, and a lot of times it's a yes, but.
Right.
Which means, yeah, you can have a tiny home on wheels in your property, but it needs to now be a hub unit or foundation or whatever.
Right. Here's your options. Here's
Yeah,
the
and
cost.
there's some places, and now we're talking statewide, there's some municipalities that say, no HUD units, no factory built, no modulars, no, nothing. Only site built, okay? So, and those municipalities are they're mostly coastal areas, and they're just digging in their heels because they just don't want the tiny home on wheels, because the stigma is, well, you can bring that tiny home in, right? But then you can pull it out, and we don't want that. So the other thing is like short-term rentals, weekend rentals, whatnot. A lot of the municipalities are saying, no, we don't want that. And actually, it's in the state law that an ADU cannot be used for a short-term rental, less than 30 days.
Less than 30 days, yes.
So,
Oh.
but then again, like there's a lot of municipalities, such as Riverside, say they have an STR, which is a short-term rental agreement that you have with the county. And you get your permit for that, and there's a lot of regulation involved, right? A lot of permitting and inspection of your property, so they can manage that.
Right.
So, and I see that throughout the state too. So, and you know what I've always said is like every parcel is different. Okay, so that's why over the last couple of years, I'm like, I wish I could really give you a cookie cutter solution statewide.
Right.
It's not the case.
But is it getting easier, or is it still as difficult as it's always been?
It's getting easier in the municipalities that accept the ANSI unit. Okay. Good. But development is always going to be a challenge. You're always going to have planning. You're always going to have building. Okay. Those departments will always regulate what you're doing on your property. Okay, so that's not going away ever.
No,
so,
of course.
But what might relax is the building code of the tiny home itself. Okay, so as we progress further with talking to the municipalities, maybe even changing the standard of what a tiny home actually is, having its own standard in between the HUD and the factory built and the ANSI building code. Yes. If we can develop a standard in between and say, look, this is better than an RV, and it's built to an IRC, International Residential Code standard, and even a CBC, California Building Code standard, then let's get this approved, such as a HUD unit is approved nationwide. So that's the goal eventually, right?
And are they actively working on that goal?
They are.
Yes, that's the good news, huh?
Yes, it's really
very exciting.
So
yeah.
So that's coming. Can't talk a lot about it right now, but it is in the works.
In the works. Yay.
So that's going to help the industry so much. Okay, the builders, but it's really going to help the housing crisis tremendously. So
one question I have for you, in the last 5 years, or especially 10 years, what have you seen as far as when it comes to manufactured housing companies, tiny home builders and all? What have you seen in that arena? Have you seen any kind of growth?
Oh, yeah. So In regards to production, yeah,
Yes.
absolutely, yeah. So in the industry as a whole, you see a lot of the older businesses that have been in business a little
The
while.
standards.
They're growing, right? They're growing. They're able to produce more product. They're getting bigger facilities to do so. And then also you see a lot of newer companies that are popping
Yes.
up. Yeah. So,
And a
yeah.
lot of them seem to be in California, interestingly
Oh,
enough.
yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
huge. It's the billions that are being moved into, well, alternative housing. And then even if you're talking green initiatives and things, being able to
Yes.
maintain everything under one factory roof,
Right.
there's a lot of benefits to that. Besides just cost, there's a
Yeah.
lot of other savings, really, even to our economy and to ecology. So
Yeah.
it's actually kind of a cool thing. I mean, we see everything now. You've got every kind of new manufactured home concept, cubicles,
Yeah.
pop-ups, all of that going on. So it'll be interesting to see how they're implemented, and even multifamily. I mean, I've looked at several that are like, wow, that is the coolest option for bringing in individual units, even stacking them, for apartments and things like that. So
Right.
I think that there'll be a lot of changes as we move forward. Is there anything that else that you want to talk about as far as, so you've gotten, let's say somebody's a go, they want to do the, they're able to do the utilities. It looks like it can be permitted. What's next?
So, yeah, let's just say hypothetically it's in the city of Fresno, and they say, okay, yeah, we're familiar with this. Thanks, Dave. We know what a HANS unit is. So we're gonna go through the permitting process, right? And we're gonna try to reduce what they did on the first one, okay? Because the engineering and the plans were 37 pages long.
Wow.
And it's like, okay, guys, we're not building
Right, right.
a
This is
development,
foundation.
right? We're inserting a tiny home on wheels in a backyard, right? So anyway, we kind of thought it was a bit overkill, but we're working with them, and we're gonna make those changes pretty soon to where it's going to be a lot easier to install the tiny homes as ADUs.
How
Anyway.
did you get it into the backyard?
Okay, so fortunately, this one had a big backyard and a big side yard. We drove our truck right through the side yard and in the backyard, and that backyard was so big that we were able to turn the truck around and drive it right out.
That's amazing. Lucky.
Yeah, so that was a good one. And the first one in Fresno County was the same way, right?
Oh, good.
They had about a half-acre property, so yeah, pretty simple on those two.
But those are things to consider, right? So somewhere it's possible
Absolutely.
that an area is going to need to be cleared so you can get in and out. Even if you can't go in and make a U-turn, there's still going to need to be a way to get in. Power
Right.
lines overhead could be a
Yes.
potential as far as other considerations. So there's just things that
Yeah, we
they,
look at all of that. So, we look, and this is something I've done in the manufacturing home industry for years, right? First of all, there's a site walk to look at utilities and access and delivery options, right? And then there's the looking at the approach. Okay, we've done a lot of installations for manufactured homes in the mountains. Okay, so you have road conditions, you have trees, you have gates and fences and dips and washouts and all that stuff that we have to look at. So we do that same way for like a residential property that wants an ADU, a tiny home. We look at all that. Overhead, like you mentioned, any kind of road obstacles, challenges, and we've done some crane jobs where we've had to crane the units over into the
and
back.
that's where I was going to go next. So somebody
Yeah.
may say, I have a huge backyard, but we don't really have an entrance. And I wanted you to mention that. So it is possible to pick it up and
Yes.
take it over the top.
Right. Yep. So yeah, and like I always say, anything's possible as long as you have the room, we can get it in there, we can hook it up, right? So then it becomes a matter of cost, but anything's possible.
Anything's possible. So when it comes to just a couple of things, I know I've had people tell me, oh, I wouldn't have room on my 10,000 square foot lot or 8,000 or whatever because I hear setbacks are 10 feet and all of that. Do you want to just briefly mention what some of the new setback regulations are?
So for an ADU, right, setbacks, we're not talking about a second dwelling on property. We're talking
No,
about
no, ADU.
it is an actual ADU, accessory dwelling unit. Then the setbacks are statewide regulated, which is a 4-foot setback from property lines and 10 foot from existing structures.
So, and I only want you to bring that up because a lot of people that maybe think I don't have the room, which really it's about how comfortable you are with somebody in your backyard. What are the people that put the tiny home that you guys are finishing up? What are they going to be using it for?
So it's a mother-in-law suite.
Okay.
So yeah, so Nancy and her son, she has a special needs son, so they're both going to be living in it. And she sold her home to be closer to her son and her family.
One of the most common reasons, really.
Yeah.
You know, so whether it's, you know, in-laws or whatever else, that's what I hear when people are
That's what I
talking.
see the most. So I would say 90% is moving mother or father in the backyard to be closer to the family. So
Yeah.
you know, the older generation, they downsize and they just want to be closer to their family. And it's a great system, right?
Yeah, no, it is. You know, when that happens, do you build ramps because you're going to skirt the property, right? Or skirt the underneath so you can't really see it. Do they also have you build ramps and things to make it easier for them to get up and down?
Yeah, so we do low rise steps, right? If someone actually needed a ramp, yeah, we can provide that too. Gets a little pricey because they have to be built to ADA code. There's another acronym.
Yeah.
American Disabilities Act, which is the handy
Yeah.
code. So yeah, but all that is possible. And
Okay.
I have a lot of different solutions for all those kind of things. So
Okay.
yeah.
You know what? We've taken some time here and we can go over more in a future video, but is there anything
Yeah.
you want to share, any more you want to talk about, anything else that you want to cover today that you think would be important for people to know?
Yeah, I think there's just so much to it. As we're talking, I have, you know, another 10, 12 things that I want to,
Me too.
insert in this conversation, but it can get so deep. But just one thing to remember is like I said, every parcel's different for, you know, if you're looking into getting an ADU, especially a tiny home on wheels on your property, you know, I'm here to help you out. So that's the bottom line is like the gauntlet of government planning and building department regulations can be quite taxing. So I think,
Well,
yeah.
it is daunting.
Okay, I
Even
got so many things running through my mind that it's like we can go into those details on different videos. I think.
that'd be good. That'd be good.
But,
Thank you so much, though. Totally
yeah.
appreciate you taking the time. I know how busy you've been. And are you only busy right here in Fresno?
No, I'm busy statewide.
So
Northern
that's what happens.
California, Southern
Yeah, when you
California,
specialize, there you go.
Arizona. Yeah, a lot of work in Arizona right now too. So.
Well, we just totally, I'm happy you're here. I hope this is helpful for people and we'll plan out our next video after we get done with this. How's that sound?
Perfect. Looking
Okay.
forward to it. Okay, thanks, Steph.
Talk to you soon.